You're listening to episode 182 of the D6 podcast.
I don't know anything more important in our society or in the kingdom of God than to help the church, help the family.
Discipleship is not an event, it's a way of life.
And one day it just hit me that discipleship at home was not about doing more. It was about inviting Christ into what we were already doing.
The goal of family ministry is not families sitting on the couch holding hands and singing Kumbaya. The ultimate goal is families that love God, love people, and make disciples of all peoples.
So that's why you're here. You're here to say 1 hour a week, as significant and as awesome as it is, we know that it's not enough, and we want to be intentional with every hour.
You're listening to the D6 podcast. Here's your hosts, Ron Hunter and Jeremy Lee.
Well, hey, everybody, this is the Family Ministry podcast that helps you connect the church and home. How are we doing today, Ron?
We're doing well. How are you, Jeremy?
Doing good. This is one of my favorite times of year.
Why is that?
Let's just small talk a little bit. Is that okay if I'm in the mood?
I know this is one of my favorites, probably the favorite.
I love talking about fall because I love to eat, and I love football, and I love cold weather. So it's the fall.
Okay. 2 out of 3 is not bad for me either.
Wait. I thought you loved all of them.
It depends on which football you're talking. I have a feeling you're discussing NFL.
Oh no, all football's fine with me.
I love college football. So yeah. Then that's the case. I'm 3 for 3 on you. I love cool weather. Mm-hmm. Absolutely my favorite. I love the autumn colors that we get here in Middle Tennessee. Mm-hmm. It is just priceless. My wife makes some of the best photographs, pictures, and then I love it when the trees are off the leaves. I don't find that to be a dead season. I actually enjoy that because some of the sights and views out where I live, we can see further.
Yes,
when the tree leaves are empty. Yeah. So yeah, I'm with you. And then I'm always hating it when spring and summer rolls back around.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. We gotta do a barbecue together. We gotta grill together soon.
Love everything about that.
Yeah.
Hey, so speaking of football, I figured it out this season because both my boys started playing middle school football. So now I've got football every day of the week but one. So I've got Monday night football. Tuesday, my boys play their games, so I'm football there. We go serve the pregame meal at the school. It's all day.
Wow.
And then Wednesday's my day off. Then Thursday, there's Thursday night football. Then Friday, there's usually a college game. Or we go to high school football, and then Saturday college, Sunday NFL, boom, boom, shake the room. I love fall.
I'm with you.
And football.
I'm with you. Well, I've got one more hobby that I'm doing this fall. I have been building a workshop, and I'm at the stage now, according to where we are. We have built the barn. It's called a barn. It looks like a barn. We built the workshop and built some internal walls, and in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going to put all the electric in there because my dad's coming up, and we're going to do the electric in it.
Yeah.
And I'm looking. So this is going to be a whole new set of hobbies and activities for me as I move forward into the winter.
And now when Pam gets mad at you, you have a place to go.
I've got a doghouse to go to. That's exactly right.
Tell me you're putting a TV in there or something.
I've got full electricity. I will have access to Wi-Fi because it's close enough to the house. So
you're good.
We're good. We're good.
See?
Yeah.
You're going to stay married longer now.
That's exactly right.
I love it.
But fall is, the fall is just gives it that so many different hobbies and activities that we can jump into.
And if we're going to do a D6 spotlight, we have scheduled to talk about the fall piece of your curriculum.
That's right.
Let's talk about what the fall brings to D6 curriculum.
Yeah, just like we plan anything else. Whether or not you're a football fan, you've planned out the entire season. This is the one I'm going to attend. This is the tailgate. Here's the one I'm going to watch on TV. Invite people over. We should have a plan for how we disciple our people. Not just haphazard, hey, what book are we going to study next? Or, what book study are we going to do? And we have helped you with this because we planned out in detail something for every age of the family. And I thought it'd be good if we just highlighted our next study. So if you're going to order the next quarter of curriculum, the next 13 weeks, it begins the first Sunday in December and goes through February. And you'll always, with our D6 curriculum, get a Old Testament study, a New Testament study, and a special topic study with each of your orders. And that kind of mixes it up. And I know what you're thinking, well, maybe I want to stay in the New Testament the whole time. This provides a good balanced diet. It really does. It puts you in places where you might not would have gone there on your own, but when you get into it, you go, oh, my word. For example, a few years back, my pastor announced he was going to do a sermon series on Leviticus, and I went, oh, no. And I was dreading that sermon series. And it turned out to be one of my favorite ones he's ever done. And he's a brilliant communicator, great, insightful. But I would have never picked Leviticus in a million years. But I'm thankful he led me into it. And the same thing is true whenever we have a planned and dated curriculum that will guide us through that. So December, we're going to look in the book of Isaiah. And the takeaway for that is to help people understand how the Bible fits together with what God promised would happen, with what did happen with the Messiah coming. And then we're going to move to the New Testament, and that's modeling genuine faith from 1 Timothy. And when we look at that, students are going to understand how to gain practical Christian disciplines in modeling our faith. And we need disciplines. We talked about that, earlier with pastor appreciation. What are the disciplines we just need to build in our life that we wouldn't normally think of in taking care of ourselves and growing? Yeah. And then the special topics is a stewardship of the mind. And with that, we're going to look at, this is the month of February, and I'm just going to read this one takeaway here. It says, the mind is a complex synthesis of the physical brain and the metaphysical consciousness, will, intellect, and emotion. The mind bears the image of God, yet is marred by depravity. The unique nature of the mind as a creation of God is examined in this study, along with the need to guard the mind against wrong philosophies and transcend the fallen nature. Students will be inspired to use their mind in ways that honor God. So I thought, well done there. We don't always think about the gatekeeper of our minds.
I love the balanced diet piece of what you just said. I mean, I love all of it, but the balanced diet it's not thought about enough in all of curriculums. That it's one of the uniquenesses I think that's really neat about what you guys have to offer. We talk a lot about I wanted to transition to our guest for the day, Tim Levert.
Absolutely.
I do understand that by Tim's own choice, he has not put himself out there enough, in my opinion. Tim, if you're listening, you need to put yourself out there more, and I'm going to push you out in this podcast. But we've talked about. Here's one of my deals. One of these days, I'm going to make an award for fathers, an award show for dads. I'm passionate about dadhood. I love it, and I just feel like we should honor. Here's my thing. I'm going to give you one of my things. Okay,
I'm ready. I'm ready for the thing.
I believe that we honor men especially for what happens on the ball fields and in the boardrooms. Right?
Ball fields and boardrooms. I like that.
And I feel like as men, when we are trying to achieve, we go for what is honored, and so we give a lot of ourselves to ballrooms, boardrooms and ball fields, and ballrooms maybe
ballrooms.
And I want to create environments where we honor the things that really matter most. And husband, father, man of God.
Exactly.
We don't talk around the water cooler about that enough, and we don't honor those things enough. So today I want to honor Tim Levert as an amazing husband, dad, man of God, and minister who has been faithful and has made a choice to be awesome in the things that don't get the most attention. And so I want to ask those of our listeners to honor that with me today and listen to this interview all the way through and sit at the feet of a guy who has done it and done it long enough to deserve the right to be heard. So after the break, we're going to hear from actually Dr. Tim Levert. He'll never make you call him doctor, but he's Dr. Tim Levert. And he has an amazing wisdom to give us on just ministry. And he himself has entered a new ministry environment, and he's implementing family ministry into it with his wife, Dr. Tasha Levert. Both of them are PhDs, just great folks. You will enjoy hearing from him after the break, Dr. Tim Levert.
The D6 curriculum is based on the principles of Deuteronomy 6 to love God, love His Word, and teach your children to do the same. What if what happened at church also happened at home? Scripture teaches that parents are the primary disciplers of their children. Because of this, D6 curriculum believes in empowering parents to be spiritual champions of their children. It accomplishes this at church by having each member of the family learning the same biblical theme. This learning is multiplied once families leave church, and they continue to grow together through the week as they use their age-appropriate devotional study guides. Ministers only have 1 hour a week with students at church, but D6 curriculum helps students disciple their families during the other 167 hours. D6 doorposts are key principles that frame a biblical worldview. They are highlighted throughout the lesson, so when you leave home, you are thinking of Scripture, and then decisions of the day are based on the Bible. Likewise, D6 challenges students to carry what they learned in church with them into their week. D6 curriculum is a discipleship strategy that connects the church and home for every generation.
Hey, I love it when our guests, I can also call a genuine friend. And our guest today is a genuine friend for a really long time, Tim Levert. Tim and his wife, Tasha, have done ministry in all different kinds of levels. If you've ever been a part of the Simply Youth Ministry Conference, you have heard of Tim and Tasha Levert. They've been with that crowd for a really long time. He's a co-author of the book, The 9 Best Practices of Youth Ministry, which you have shared with me might be getting a big re-release soon, which is super cool. He co-authored that with Kurt Johnston. He's also was the main editor on the Simple Truth Bible. So there is a ton of cool stuff that Tim has gotten. But the thing I respect about Tim and his wife, Tasha, they are both PhDs. They have had all the opportunities in the world to do just about any and everything you'd want. But they have chosen to stay in the local church as youth ministers. And they have decades now of experience with it, and they're here. Tim is here. I need to get Tasha. She's my next call. She said no to me, so I called you, Tim. That's how it works. By the way, welcome to the podcast. I should let you talk. Hey, man.
Hey, thanks, man. Great to be here. Love what you do, and love being a little voice and a part of that.
You're currently at Hope Community Church in Raleigh, North Carolina. Really cool church, you were sharing with me offline, and that's what I want to talk about today is your passion. I think if you do youth ministry long enough, first of all, you figure out your unique passion. And your unique passion is student leadership, which is kind of a cool thought. And remember, children's ministry and youth ministry is a part of, they're the ones that are listening in our audience. But I think student leadership is a factor for both of them. Why have you chosen student leadership as your passion?
Yeah, great question. I think all the statistics, and who knows where they come from and how accurate they are, but I think we can see anecdotally, most kids check out a church at least for a season once they graduate from high school. And a lot of research from Fuller and other places that have pointed to giving students ownership. And so I think, that's one reason I want kids to develop a lifelong faith. And so that doesn't start when they're adults. It starts right where they are. And second, man, they can just do so much more stuff than we give them credit for. And a lot of times they do it better than we do. So why not say, man, let me give you opportunity to do something that you're good at, and it's going to help you and me long term.
So you know D6, our focus is family ministry. So I think this is an interesting topic to bring into the family ministry conversation. I feel like, goodness gracious, over the years now, I've done over 200 interviews on all different family ministry topics. And I can say very rarely have I covered student leadership in the context of family ministry. But let me ask you this. Is there a family ministry element to student leadership?
Yeah, so if we're trying to care for the whole family, that means that we're meeting parents where they are, teenagers where they are, older elementary, younger elementary kids, we're meeting them all where they are. I think that's all a part of, I think student leadership is certainly a part of that puzzle.
I mean, for me, when somebody talks to me about implementing parent ministry into their ministry, one of the things they'll say is we need to hire a staff member to do that. And I say, oh, if I were you, I would not do that. I would basically look at every piece of your ministry and try to infuse parent ministry into every piece. And I think student leadership has got to be similar. And let me kind of give it to you. I'll frame it to you in this context. Just today, I just walked in and had a conversation with my wife, and she said, and my son was at football practice, and the coach wanted to meet with my wife. My wife kind of immediately thought, oh my gosh, my son's in trouble with the coach, and he wants to meet with me. It was the exact opposite. He wanted to meet with my wife, with my son there, and he basically spent about 10 minutes telling her and my son what a leader my son was on the team. And so I want to put it from this context. Isn't there an opportunity with student leadership to educate the parents about, hey, you've got a cool kid here who is really doing some cool things, and introducing maybe to the parents what their kids can do? Because sometimes we see them in a different light as parents.
Oh, that's a great point, a great angle. I do think, one of the tons of benefits to students being in leadership. But there's some growing pains as well. One of my buddies uses the phrase, you got to pay taxes. That you got to pay the stupid tax sometimes, and not that students are stupid, but students will make mistakes that adults might not always make, and so you got to be willing to let that happen and have some debrief and some conversations about what do we learn from that. It seems like in Jesus's ministry, more often than not, he didn't just allow chaos. He sometimes kind of instigated, like he put people in situations that were tension filled, and then had a conversation with them afterwards. And so you invite students into leadership. Participation is always going to go up, but the chaos might go up as well. Like the quote unquote quality may go down if you give students leadership. But if you define quality as a production, then maybe that's true. But if you define quality as life transformation, then that goes up as well. And so I think there's an opportunity as you're having those conversations with students to come alongside parents and say, look, they are making some mistakes. They're not doing things just right, but look at the risk it takes, the courage it takes for them to step into this role, to speak out to their peers, or if they're leading in other age groups, to speak out to these groups. Let's celebrate what they're doing, even if they're making some mistakes. Let's celebrate what they're doing, and then let's come alongside and coach them through that and help them grow and mature and get better at it.
Yeah, because especially if they may have kids that it's just true that especially as kids get older, there's versions of them that you don't see at home because they're different in different settings at times. And one of the things we can do is kind of help parents see a side of their kid that they may not see yet.
Yeah.
As student leaders. Now, I want to kind of explore a little bit about what you said. You mentioned the chaos thing. I think that's great because and we were talking a little bit offline about the fact that, as every time you enter a new setting of ministry and you try to implement this student leadership, one of the things you've kind of got to deconstruct is this idea of everything being buttoned up and looking perfect, because if students are going to be a part of it, then you have to start to get comfortable with things not being perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, in a church setting that values excellence, and I think most churches, at least they say they do, whether they do or not, they say they do. I think you really got to drill down on what do you mean by excellence. And like I sort of alluded to earlier, if excellence means all the cues go off on the right time, the lights are set right, the sound, no mistakes, the media looks right, the greeting, like all those pieces are done right. If that's your definition of excellence, students might not always meet that definition. But if we recognize inviting students into leadership is as much about their formation as it is about their influence in the larger group, then you got to recognize that there's going to be some blemishes in the other definition of excellence, so that there's space to have some conversations and engage relationally with kids to help them grow, to help them be transformed, and the amount of confidence they get when they're able to pull something off, it's just crazy. And most adults and students' lives assume the worst. They walk into the Walmart and security guys give them a weird look because they're teenagers. They go to McDonald's, whatever. They go to schools. Teachers expect the worst out of them. And to be a place for the church to be a place where we say we expect the best out of you. We see something in you that you may not even see in yourself yet, and we're going to invite you into this opportunity to explore what that looks like. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And frankly, I think we can disciple parents through that process to see, hey, what are some ways I can invite my kids into these kind of opportunities in our family and our home life?
I love that. So one of the things that's always kind of been a question mark for me with student leadership that I want you to answer for me and hopefully answer for somebody else who might be thinking about this. It's for me, it's the tension of this, identifying who should be a student leader. So is everybody a candidate for student leadership and you're just going to raise them up as a leader? Or are you looking for the students who have natural leadership qualities, identifying them, recruiting them, and then growing them? What is the starting point? And remember, we're talking about children and student ministry, because children's ministry, that's a whole nother beast. But where is that starting point? Do you try to give everybody that opportunity? Are you looking for a certain kind of kid?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I do think all this applies to kids ministry as well. I think there's different areas of responsibility, but we've tried to move away from saying, hey, you have to be this age or this number of years removed from kids ministry or student ministry to be that to re-engage. That might be a good general rule, but man, there are always exceptions. And so back to your question, I think it's all of the above. We give an open call and invite students to participate in any area of ministry. And I'll tell you, the turning point for me, my kids are involved in theater and music and love all that stuff. And so the first time my oldest daughter, who's now just finished her freshman year of college, when she finished her freshman year of high school, during that year, she got a role in the musical. So we knew she was musical and talented and whatever. So we go to the show, and the leader, the adult, gets up and basically says, hey, here's my name and here's what I did, and now we're turning it over to the students. And then the student director stands up and shares her part of it. And she introduces the students who are leading tech and the students who are backstage and the students who are leads in the play and the students who are in the choir and the students who led the choir and the students who are doing all the parts. And we realized, man, this is a public school, who have given the keys of leadership to students in this department, and they're doing everything. No, you don't want the kid who can't sing and can't act and is terrified and is going to wet their pants to be the lead, right? So you recognize that there's different skill sets and whatever, but there's a place for that kid, and maybe it's backstage, but there's a place for that kid too. And so I think in our ministries, we just got to recognize the same thing. I'm probably not going to give the authority to teach to any student. I want to know them, know that they're being discipled, and know that they're taking steps forward in their faith. But I'm going to give the kid, even the kid who's putting the cigarettes out before he walks in, I'm going to try to find a role for him too. That there's a place for you to serve no matter where you are. I just got to use discernment and have leaders who are using discernment to know where we put them and why.
Another element of student leadership is you have to keep score differently, correct? I mean, because in a lot of environments, you keep score by attendance and how many people come. So therefore, you do maybe you don't use students because you want the presentation of what you're doing to be perfect so that people enjoy it and they want to come. So if I'm doing student leadership, and that is a kind of a big value to me, I have to count differently because, my attendance may take a drop, but I'm getting more students involved in the process. Am I correct in my thinking there, or does that tension exist with your church?
No, I think that's spot on. And I think, again, part of it is defining what is the goal. And so if, for our regular programming, for example, our small groups are student-led and every student has an adult mentor. But we also recognize that student may not be ready to lead week in and week out. And so we have the same model. We didn't make this up, that adults lead, students watch, adults lead, students help, students lead, adults help, students lead, adults watch. And so we kind of follow that. We sort of unofficially follow that process and recognize that it's going to just kind of depend on where students are in their own development. But in our larger reach events, our big, more production-oriented events, there's not as much student leadership. There is some, and we are trying to raise students up to take most of that responsibility as well. But we do want to find the folks who are most gifted and most ready to lead in those areas to lead. And so if it's a student, great. But if it's not a student, that's okay too. Maybe it's a 50-year-old seasoned youth leader who needs to be the person doing this particular role because of what we're trying to accomplish. But I don't think it's accurate that student leadership means attendance goes down. I think attendance grows much slower when students lead, but I think it's much more sustainable when students are leading, because it's not as dependent on me or my personality or the adults and their personality.
I like that. Keep going with that thought.
Yeah, well, I think it develops a culture of, so we just did an event where we brought our rising freshmen into the high school ministry. So we invited all the upperclassmen, and we did just a 10-minute little huddle time with them, saying, here's what's going to happen when they come in the doors. We want you to go crazy, celebrate them, give them, we can have free swag for them and all that stuff, and face painting and making them matching face paints, whatever, just stupid stuff. But these rising freshmen walked in, and they looked terrified because all these upperclassmen run over to them, high-fiving them and celebrating. Well, the next year, when those freshmen are sophomores and there's another group of freshmen coming in, that's going to be an even better time because now they've been on both sides. And so fast forward 3 or 4 years, now there's a culture of high schoolers who they know one of my jobs as an upperclassman is to make these freshmen know you belong here. There's a place for you here, and you're going to find Jesus and good friendships here. And so I think it takes longer to build that, but I don't think you're sacrificing health. I think you may be sacrificing short-term growth.
Love that. That's a really great way to say it. Okay, I want to change subjects just for a second, because while I have you, I want to make sure I get a lot of good stuff out of you. I think of you and Tasha as just a straight up power couple. Tasha is a counselor. She runs Broomtree Counseling. And you are a youth minister, but you also have experience with teaching and with speaking. You're a worship leader. Both of you are worship leaders. You're authors. You're presenters. Goodness gracious. And like I said, both PhDs. I think there are a lot of ministers listening to this who, and one of the things that's driving this question is, and those of you that are listening, on Facebook, you can go to Hope Middle School Students, and you'll see one of Tim's pages for his ministry, and you'll see on there that him and Tasha have been doing a Facebook Live for parents called Parent Hub Live, which I think is amazing. Great content. And, but you we'll see an example in these videos of how they share the stage. Y'all have shared the stage together so well in ministry. And I think there's a lot of ministers out there who are part of a couple that wants to share the stage, that both of them are very talented in ministry and want to do it, but might not know how to navigate that. And just any tips you could give, I'd appreciate it, because I think you guys are some of the best at it.
All right, you're very kind. It's Hope HSM. It's on the high school ministry page.
I'm looking at Hope Middle School. You shared it. Okay, there you
go. That's a great question. So, and I'll tell you, Jonathan Lee is a guy I served with almost 20 years ago, and was very instrumental in helping us figure this out because we were co-pastoring a church, and his vision was that we would tag team teaching. Both of us share the platform. And that was a learning curve. We talked over each other at times. It really took us a season to figure out we have to do our planning and do good work in the planning and the research. But once it's time to actually hit play and start the message or start the teaching, we really got to trust each other that as we've done our work, now the Spirit's kind of stepping in and the Spirit's leading. But if Jonathan didn't say something the way I wanted, I couldn't go back and quote unquote correct him and vice versa, that we had to kind of trust that process. And so I think that's been a 20-year process, and Tasha was a part of that teaching team, and we have continued to do that in a lot of different arenas. And so even the most recent Facebook Live deal we did on discipline, we walked into that, and we usually, one of us does the first outline and then we kind of go from there. And so I did the first outline. We had our meeting together, and she basically said, I think we got to go a completely different direction. Well, I didn't like to hear that because I thought, I wish I wouldn't have done 4 hours of work. But trusting each other to say, okay, let's crumple this up and start over, I think it requires a lot of trust, a lot of just deference to one another that this is an area she's stronger, she's got more experience, more education, more insight, whatever. So I'm going to defer to her on that. And then once you're actually in the moment, you really do have to just respect and trust that process, that let them say, let Tasha say what she's nudged to say, and then my turn to pick up and not go back and tweak it. We do at times say, hey, we might disagree on this point, and we'll share kind of a point counterpoint, but I got to trust her to say things the way God wired her to say it, and vice versa. So a lot of trust.
Love that. Thank you. How many years ministry are you guys into? Geez Louise, probably near 30 by this point.
Yeah, she started in 93. We both started in 93. So 26 years.
We're so old.
We're old, man.
I'm looking
Yeah.
at this video and I'm like, you have such great hair. Not
Gray
great.
or great?
I said great. I said great.
Yeah.
I do see the gray, and I think all that means is wisdom, my friend.
Well, that's right. I'm just in style.
As a bald man, just whatever color you can get, be happy about it.
That's right. It turns gray, it turns loose. One or the other.
All right. So my point, though, is over those years, one of the things I think you don't go through that long without going through pain, hurt, struggle. And we've talked in detail a long time about my experience and your experiences in this. Can you just give us, because I just believe you and Tasha are great examples of emotional health in those processes. What would be a tip that you'd have for a listener that might be just going through some struggle in their ministry journey with their church? How would you, I know you could talk forever on this, but what would be one of the main one or two things you'd say to them?
I think, first I would say I'm really sorry. It breaks my heart when people go through painful stuff, and I know it breaks God's heart as well. And this probably will sound overly cliched, but I do think this sounds cliched, but I think it's 100% true. I do think you just got to continue to lean into God's grace in the midst of that. I think you got to allow God to shape your heart where you're not getting bitter, you're not holding on to unforgiveness. You're not putting walls up. You consciously, and this mental picture that we both use is, I can feel myself putting the wall. I mean, I have to picture myself reaching out and taking that brick and putting it to the side. That I'm not going to build a wall between me and God, between me and other people, even people who've hurt me. I can set good boundaries, but that doesn't mean I have to build a wall against them. And I think the other part of that is that I do think God tests us. I do think that not that God necessarily causes all the pain we experience, but God's not surprised by our pain. So he doesn't go, wow, I didn't expect that to happen. He sees it, he knows it, and he loves us and walks us through it. And so it doesn't make him a jerk. It makes him a benevolent God who says, you know what Satan, what others might have intended for evil, I'm going to take this and turn it into something amazing. That you might not get to the amazing unless you walk through the pain.
See, you guys know why I love him. Now you can see, because I've sat and gotten that in person many times. Thank you for your friendship, Tim. Now you have you mentioned that you guys might re-release your book, the one that you and Kurt did. Kurt Johnston at Saddleback. You introduced me to him, and it's been so huge in my life to have that friendship as well. But tell us about the book and the re-release. Get us excited about it.
Yeah, so we released the book. It was some research that was done. That group publishing said, could y'all take the research and turn it into something practical for the everyday youth leader? So we tried to do that, and we kind of had this shtick about baseball and made a lot of stupid jokes and puns about baseball. And the one piece of negative feedback we got repeatedly was it was too much stupid stuff about baseball. So and then we got other feedback, some more positive feedback, and even folks saying this is not just relevant for student ministry, this is relevant for kids ministry and adult ministry and just pastoral leadership and stuff. And so it's that we call it the 9 best practices of student ministry. So we'll re-release it. Not sure what the title will be, but we're also bringing in some folks who are experts in the multi-site church world. And so I am in a multi-site church, not an expert. Kurt probably is an expert in a multi-site church, and then Carl Rameus, who has been in the multi-site world for a while. We'll have some other voices in the multi-site world, but basically it's a kind of a foundational book of like, what are the bigger picture things we need to build into our ministry? They're going to be some tips and tricks, but the focus is on foundational things like what do we need to become as leaders and what systems do we need to put into place to really build healthy, long-term, sustainable ministries.
Man, oh man. Do you have a timeline yet, or are y'all working on it?
Likely late fall, maybe early winter this year. That's the hope.
Awesome. So, hey, if they want to follow you, get a hold of you, what's their best way to do that?
On social media at Tim Levert, Timlevert. Tasha is on as well, Tasha Levert. We're on social media stuff. Tasha has a website, tashalevert.com. I'm not that cool or important, so but I'm on social media, and that's free, so there you go.
But you have great hair. Great. I've got to pronounce "great" a little bit better. I'm insulting you multiple times unintentionally.
No.
All right. Hey, listen. Thank you for being with us. I appreciate it, Tim, and it means a lot.
Well, dude, love you, love your heart, love how God has walked you through some stuff, and just the impact you're making on the church in the U.S. and beyond is fantastic. So proud for you, proud of you.
Thank you, brother.
It really doesn't matter what size church you pastor. It does not matter where you are on your career ladder if you're not in ministry. It doesn't matter how well you perform on the ball field. At the end of the day, nobody at the end of their life has wished for more of those items. They have always wished for more personal connection with the people in their lives that matter. Be it their spouse, their kids, their grandkids, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Those are the relationships that make the difference.
So one of my dreams, one day I'm going to create the Dad Awards. It's going to happen. And if I were if I were able to do it, I would nominate Tim and hand him the trophy today. So thanks, Tim, for being with us. I appreciate you. Not just as a professional minister, but I have seen you as a husband and dad, and you rock, my brother. So thank you for being with us. And next week we have another great guest, and you will. A lot of you might have enjoyed his music over the years, and he is an author who's released a really cool book, and he's going to be telling about his new project, Andrew Peterson.
Big fan of Andrew Peterson.
If that doesn't ring familiar to you, give him a Google.
Yes.
Give him a Google, because
we're going to YouTube.
The man makes some beautiful, beautiful music, and I think you'll enjoy it, especially around Christmas. That's I like his Christmas music. It's beautiful. All right, so Andrew will be with us next week. That's one of those interviews that David Jones has done, and he's bringing to us. It's going to be great. So I hope you guys have a great week of ministry. I hope you'll join us next week to hear from Andrew Peterson.
You've been listening to the D6 Podcast. You can learn more about D6 at d6family.com.